Oh, hi, everybody. Ezra Levant here with Rebel News. You know, every week we have a special live stream called the Buffalo. It's a nod to the prairies. And not just that, the nickname that was going to be used as the mega province of Alberta and Saskatchewan together. But instead, they were broken into two provinces, given birth to on the same day, September 1st, 1905. We keep that spirit alive here. What a pleasure to be here with our chief reporter, Sheila Gunn Reid, in the Edmonton area, Lise, Merle from Saskatchewan, and my old buddy and my old boss, Stockwell, who has had various positions both in the provincial government of Alberta and federally. I'm going to call upon my guest shortly, but let me just lead with an idea that I'd like to chew over because we have a few clips about it, and it's how we make decisions in a society. And I won't even say just in a democracy, because I think it's how we make decisions in any society. People make them. The question is, how many people? Is it just one king, one autocrat? Is it the prime minister? Is it a judge, one judge or three judges or nine judges? Is it the broader parliament, 338 I think there are, plus the Senate? Or, bear with me for a second, what happened if everyone in a jurisdiction was given one person, one vote? So, for example, on moral questions, much of that is being done by our Supreme Court. 9 judges. I bet you can't name all 9 judges on the Canadian Supreme Court. 9 judges just wave a wand and decide what morality will be in Canada, whether it's euthanasia, gay marriage, transgenderism. You do not get to vote on that. And in fact, Parliament itself rarely does. Is that the way to make a decision? Or what if, on important things, every once in a while, every single person could vote, getting around the captured interests in Ottawa and Edmonton? I think that's the theme for today. Sheila, let me go to you. Do you see where I'm coming from? I'm not sure if I made my point clearly enough. Anyone who is against Alberta's referendum, or even the new referendum to have a referendum, is by nature an elitist and an anti-democrat. Because even if you want Alberta to stay within Canada, how could anyone possibly be against a fair election where ordinary people are allowed to speak?
Well, and I think that's the problem, is that ordinary people are allowed to speak here instead of having decisions foisted upon them from far away, which is exactly the problem, which is why so many people, I think the latest polling data shows 36% of Albertans are hardline separatists at this point. And it is because we are not getting a say in our future. And when people trot out the idea that it's anti-democratic to give people a vote, it just fuels the separatism fire here in Alberta.
Lise, you're in Saskatchewan, which does not have a referendum, but I know from an event we did with you in Regina a few months ago, there is similar feeling there. And I think Scott Moe, in his heart of hearts, is a sympathizer to the independence movement. Do you think there's a prospect that Saskatchewan might allow a referendum too? Is there momentum building, or is Scott Moe looking at the political and media troubles in Alberta and saying, no thanks, I don't need any of that?
Well, he's walking a really, really fine line right now between playing nice with the new prime minister and playing nice with the people of Saskatchewan, who are overwhelmingly saying, we are done with Ottawa. And overwhelmingly, what we see in Saskatchewan is that depending on what Alberta does, this is what Saskatchewan will also do. You said in the intro, we are twin sisters that were separated at birth, and what Alberta does next is going to influence what Saskatchewan does next.
I keep seeing out of the corner of my eye Brad Wall, who was really a breakthrough premier for the Sask party in Saskatchewan, really ended the generation-long hold on that province by the socialist NDP. He's so likable. He's such a great politician. And every now and then I see him say something on X, or Twitter as it used to be known, and makes me think, you know what, I think he's an independence guy. And not only does he have the credibility, the name recognition, there's a lot of Saskatchewan people living in Alberta. I sort of wish that he would maybe step up and say, you know what, I'm going to be a calm, thoughtful voice for independence. That's sort of my daydream, my dream candidate. Stockwell Day, what do you think, first of all, of referendums? The last big referendum Canada had, if I'm not forgetting anything, was the Charlottetown Accord, which was, that was, if I'm not mistaken, 1992. So, a whole generation ago. the entire establishment was for yes. This was a constitutional reform. All the big parties supported, all the media. This was in the pre-internet era. So I remember big full-page ads were taken out in newspaper by every fancy person saying, I support this, therefore you should because I say so. But it failed 60-40, which I thought was wonderful. What do you think of referendums in general, Stock?
Well, there should be a place for them. It's things can be accomplished through a referendum that maybe can't be accomplished in other ways. One of the main things it does, it's like a pressure valve, and it allows people to at least ask a question. Anytime you say I'm talking whether you're talking about raising your kids and you say you can't ask that question, or if you get to university and the prof says you can't ask that question, which actually happens quite a bit today. Anytime you tell somebody who's really burning up to ask a question to shut up and you can't ask the question, you're just going to create huge problems. There has to be a way for questions to be put. Referenda are a valid way of doing that, structured along certain guidelines, and they should be permitted.
You know, I think sometimes politicians throw prickly questions to the courts precisely so they can avoid having to make a decision. Now, the courts always tilt one way, so it's something liberals love to do. But in a way, a referendum is the same get off the hook for a politician. They could say, this is a tough one, this is a big momentous thing, I'm not going to arrogate unto myself the decision, I'm going to let ordinary people do it. And I think the reason why so many in the elite commentariat in Canada, like I just think of Andrew Coyne and shut up, he explained. Like that's what you're talking about, Stock, just telling people to shut up and calling names. It's not going to persuade people. I think if anything, it's a safety valve for prickly issues. I mean, remember, it's not just independence that's on the ballot. Danielle Smith is putting immigration questions on the ballot, and that's something that every single pollster for 10 years or more has said people want lower numbers, but no politician in office has seemed to have done it. What a great way to air out that question so politicians don't have to be the bad guy. I don't know. Are there any other, does anyone know, are there other provinces that have referendum or citizen initiative laws on the books? I think BC might, but I could be wrong on that. Do you guys know?
Well, I know.
BC, yeah, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I know for sure Saskatchewan does. However, unlike Alberta, theirs is non-binding. So, and the bar to get your referendum question on the ballot is very high, almost insurmountable. The last one they had, Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was on debt.
Yes.
Yes, it was on debt and debt spending. And of course, naturally, that did pass, but then they continued debt spending because it's non-binding. So if the people of Saskatchewan want a voice in their future, our friend Scott Moe in Saskatchewan should consider making a referendum non-binding and also lowering the bar so that putting a ballot question to the people is not so onerous the way it is there now. Sorry.
No, and there's
Stockwell.
really, there's no good argument for it. Sheila Gunn Reid, there's no good, sorry, Stockwell Day, you go ahead. I'm going to defer to you.
No, you've got better insights on this, more recent than I just want to reflect something Ezra said. Also, it's really important here on the judiciary. The original intent in constitutional democracies like Canada's, like the US, is to have a balance of powers. So you've got an executive branch, which is basically your cabinet. You've got the elected group, which is basically your legislatures or House of Commons, and you've got the judiciary. And that's actually done on the premise that people will not always make the right thing. People will not always do the right thing. You cannot trust one level of government. That is a very good, healthy perspective to have. And that's why there's a balance of powers. But it gets imbalanced when you have a judiciary that completely abandons the original intent of the balance of powers is when at the end of the line, the question, whatever it might be, would go to judges who would make a decision based on what was the original intent. Now, I realize a lot of people, and Ezra quite rightly mentioned these pontificators who roll their eyes, when we, the mere masses, discuss these things like original intent. But that was the purpose of it. A judge or judges would then decide, well, based on whether they like it or not, based on the original intent, this law can stand, or it can't. And when you have judges defying that, as the recent judicial decision in Alberta, or as the one just recently in Ontario, which says it's actually a constitutional right for you to have an encampment in a downtown city and not be moved. When we get insane rulings that have nothing to do with original intent, you get a lot of unrest, and it brings even more into light the need for referenda.
You know, you're so right. I mean, this one lone judge in Alberta, and it is relevant that that judge was appointed by Justin Trudeau, and it is relevant that that judge is originally from New Brunswick. I've got nothing against New Brunswick, and I think there's a place for liberals in society, believe it or not. But just simply to have 700,000 petition signers. Remember, 300,000 who signed the independence petition led by Mitch Sylvester, and 400,000 who signed a pro-Alberta. I mean, there's pro-Canada one. So 700,000 people want a referendum. At least that many. More who didn't sign it, for sure. And one judge says, no, I've discovered a new Indigenous veto on, I mean, these people hadn't even done anything other than say, hey, I'd like a discussion. No, shut up, she explained. You're not allowed. And by the way, this feeds the underlying grievance of Alberta, which suggests that there's a two-tier system in Canada, because Quebec has had two independence referendums, and none of this was thrown at them. To his credit, the Parti Québécois, that's the provincial separatist party in Quebec, had a comment about this, and I think it's a good time to play that clip, Olivia. And by the way, our Alexa Lavoie had a 1-hour sit-down with the Parti Québécois leader, so I appreciate him giving us the time of talking to us. I think it was an excellent interview. Without further ado, here's the clip of Mr. Plamondon.
I don't think we heard your reaction since Danielle Smith announced that she'll start the process for a future and potential referendum. How do you react about this? What's happening in Alberta?
I'm kind of surprised at what Carney said. Mark Carney seemed to be willing to give many things to Alberta in exchange for some peace. And I think the Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith, is just doing her job as a Premier, saying that, of course, they are free to consult their population, and of course, they're a parliament free of making any laws that they deem fit, for their objectives. So for Mark Carney to all of a sudden start saying that it's a bluff, it's dangerous, I think it's really out of line, and I'm not sure where that is heading. But let me make clear that in the case of Quebec, our laws are clear. The history of the two referendums are very clear. We are free to consult our population at any time, and there's no blackmail or any comment that will change that principle. And I'm pretty sure that it's the same reasoning in Alberta right now.
I mean, again, he's just saying, I can talk to my people, they can petition me, and no judge is going to stop it. And I think that would be called normal democracy. He was referring to a few comments by Mark Carney. And let me just play a couple more vids, and then we'll go back to our super duper panel. Olivia, can you play the first one there, where Carney says the referendum about a referendum is not binding? And I am frustrated that Danielle Smith watered it down to 2 referendums in a row. I don't think that makes any sense. I don't think it was justified, but she did it. Here's Mark Carney saying the whole thing's a joke. Take a listen.
Just to be clear, because it is a question about a question. I mean, it's explicit in the question that it's not a binding referendum. This is what I expected, but as I said in French, that as Prime Minister on particular issues of a constitutional nature, I like to make sure I have the official advice before us, which is why yesterday I was careful in terms of my. No, it is not. It is not for under a Clarity Act. It is absolutely not, and I would just recommend that you read the Clarity Act. It's very clear. Not surprisingly, the Clarity Act is very clear. And a determination, and there's a series of conditions which I responded in the House for the record. Thank you.
So a big win from Mark Carney. I don't know what Danielle Smith got in return. And just one more. Mark Carney had a hot mic incident where it sounds like he was calling Danielle Smith stupid, or at least her ideas stupid. And I mean, we know he sneers at the West. We know he sneers at democracy. I mean, it's quite something to take lectures on democracy from someone who did not get a majority government. Voters deemed he should only have a minority government, but he undermined that election by bribing and giving gifts and promises to MPs to make them cross the floor. I don't really think that we should take lessons from Carney on democracy, but here he is referring to a moment captured by, I think it was CTV, where he was saying Danielle Smith is stupid for not letting the judge kill this thing. Take a listen.
Yeah, Prime Minister, I'm hoping you can clarify some remarks that you made after the scrum on Monday. When you were leaving the press conference, you spoke with Minister Robertson, and I want to read what you set out. What are you doing? This is stupid. You've got an off-ramp. Take it. That to me sounds like you're talking about Danielle Smith and the Alberta referendum question.
I was talking to Minister Robertson.
But can you clarify what you were discussing at that point in time? Because the scrum was about what Smith had done.
No, it was about Minister Robertson. Look, I have, I think if I'm going to take your question about the relationship with Canada and Alberta, Canada and the federal government and the provinces. And we practice cooperative federalism. We work together. What we're focused on is making the federation work. We're doing that with Alberta. With respect to a variety of aspects of energy. It's much more than a pipeline. It's nuclear. It's interconnects with British Columbia. It's a new industry of carbon capture. It's restarting the renewable market. It's getting a carbon market that actually works, that other provinces can be able to join so we can broaden out a national carbon market. That's what we're doing there. We're here talking about defense industrial strategy, the benefits of the announcement we just made around the negotiations led by Secretary of State.
Yeah, okay, we don't need any more of this bafflegab. His real answer was laughing for about 30 seconds straight, and then he just pivoted to talking about the new carbon capture industry and a carbon market that really works. Those are not real things, by the way. That's exactly what Enron got in trouble for, just trading BS, trading hot air. There is no such thing as a market for carbon. I'm exhaling it right now. Plants inhale it. It's naturally occurring. There makes no economic sense to spend $10 billion pumping CO2 into the ground. It's a made up thing. So it's sort of weird that he pivots from, let me laugh at Danielle Smith for a solid 30 seconds and then tell you the ways I'm undermining Alberta. It's just tremendously disrespectful. Stock Day, I'm wondering, is Mark Carney's tone the right one to convince Albertans? I mean, listen, right now the polls say Albertans would not vote for independence, but there's a big chunk between 30 and 40% right now who say they would. Mark Carney, I think, is an elitist who hasn't really spent any time in Canada for 20 years, and he naturally scoffs at questions he doesn't like, people he doesn't like, especially doesn't do well with women he doesn't like. What do you make of his tone towards Danielle Smith?
Yeah, he was clearly caught off guard, and his parliamentary pants were down there. He was clearly exposed as thinking that Danielle Smith and the approach he's taking is a joke. He couldn't stop his nervous laughter, as you said, for 30 seconds, and then just a stream of totally extraneous items that had nothing to do with the question. The fact is, 1995, we know there was a vote in Quebec, and it was 50.6% of Quebecers decided to stay. By the way, that clip you just played from the Quebec minister is brilliant. That's 100% the position. Provinces has the right to decide these. After the 95, then a reference was sent to the Supreme Court in 98. That was called the Quebec reference. And the Quebec reference didn't say whether a province could ask a question. They said, if a province is going to ask a question, here's some things they should take into consideration. That resulted in the Clarity Act in 2000. The Clarity Act lays out some things that says, here's what Parliament will have to consider after a vote has been taken. There is no suggestion a vote cannot be taken. There's no suggestion that whether it's First Nations or any other nation can stop a vote. Provinces have the right to ask questions. Parliament may decide on those questions if they like them or not, but the provinces have the right to put those questions in a referendum.
Yeah, you know what? I look at countries and jurisdictions around the world with referendums, and I'm sort of jealous. Like, I'm showing my age here. I'm 54, but way back in the day when Ronald Reagan was the governor of California. Can you remember? Can you imagine that, having a Republican, a great Republican governor of California? It was a different time and a different place, but there were referendums on property taxes. In fact, I think it was, going from memory here, Prop 13, I think it was called. Like, it was a major game-changing proposition. They do a lot of these referendums in California, and they are much more sensible in their outcomes than the politicians. And they really paved the way for reducing taxes out there. I look at Switzerland. If I'm not mistaken, and again, I'm just, Olivia, call up a headline to corroborate what I'm about to say. I think Switzerland just had a referendum capping their total population. Did you see that, Olivia? See if you can find that.
Could we do that? Could we do that here?
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
let's try
seriously.
doing that here.
And Switzerland is such an interesting place because they've had direct democracy for such a long time. And by the way, it's one of the best countries in the world by just about every measure. And, they're very cohesive. They have a strong military. Yeah, there you go. So that's, go ahead and put that. Poll shows Swiss evenly split on proposal to cap population at 10 million. Now, that quote you have there is a couple weeks old. I'm not sure if they voted for, maybe I misread the headline, but I think they actually might have passed that. Or maybe not. But anyways, the fact that they are allowed to talk that way allows them to say things that a scaredy cat politician generally wouldn't. Hey, let me show you. I really like Scott Moe, by the way. I like his temperament. He's very Saskatchewan. I think he's a good egg, but he's a little cautious. My favorite Scott Moe clip was when he was in China, sitting next to Mark Carney. And that was when Mark Carney decided to say, New World Order. And he was saying it
Scott
so
Moe does
slowly to
this.
emphasize it. Can you get that clip, Olivia? I just want, because there's Scott Moe in the shot, sitting right next to the boss. And I think Mark Carney was saying it really slow for the translators to get, but he was also really saying it slow and emphatically so that everyone back home could hear it and in the White House could hear it. And just look at Scott Moe suddenly get this spasm of fear. Take a look, pump it up.
Visit. And I believe the progress that we have made that leverages our strengths to create greater stability, security, sustainability, and prosperity for all our peoples. And I look forward to this working session to advance those objectives. Thank you very much. As you mentioned,
Wait.
Oh, I don't think that was the clip. See if you can find it, because it's just, there's
It's a
Scott Moe.
hostage
He's
video.
a little jet lagged, but he's putting his best face forward. And yeah, that's the one there. Yeah.
Hold on. It's so good, you guys. So good. Worth the wait.
visit. And I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
Did you see him? He go, what? He said, I hope I'm not in the shot.
Scott Moe reaction videos are my favorite kind of videos now. In Wob Canoes, we're going to see another clip from Wob Canoe. Scott Moe is sitting between Danielle Smith and Wob Canoe yesterday during that disastrous press conference they had. And he kind of has the same reaction. I was like, Scott, are you kicking him under the table? Like, he's my favorite politician to watch react now. So yeah, what a great guy. Yeah.
Now, Stock, let me ask you a question, because, of course, you served in the Alberta government, but you also served in the federal government. And, you know, relationships with China, I don't know if they're better or worse than in your time. The idea of going there, saying we want a partnership with China, we want a new world order, and he gave them favors. He didn't really come back with a lot. He came back with, well, they extracted from him permission to sell 49,000 Chinese electric vehicles in Canada every year, which the U.S. ambassador says they're not being allowed in the States because they've got all that spyware in them. What do you make of Carney, who just over a year ago, he said China was our greatest strategic threat, security threat, but now he's saying New World Order, partnership, sure, you can sell your spy cars here, we're going to pivot away from America, we don't want a unipolar world dominated by America. What do you make of this, and maybe compare it to your days when you were a federal cabinet minister?
Well, I got very nervous when I heard Prime Minister Carney first articulate that thing of cuddling closer to China. And as previous Minister of Public Safety, where I was able to deal with many countries on security issues, terrorism-related issues, as soon as I heard that, I thought this is going to cut us off from a lot of information sharing we have with the U.S. And that we have with the so-called Five Eyes with the other security communities. Bad move. Yes, let's trade with China. Allow our citizens to do business with Chinese business people. Of course, I'm for that. But pushing us, and he's stubbornly pushing closer and closer to China, not good. It's hurting relationships. It's bad for Canada, and it certainly doesn't help our trade negotiations with the U.S.
Stockwell, you mentioned in the lead up to the show that you were recently in the United States, and we're wondering what the Americans think about all of this.
Well, I was just invited. I was actually just last week. I was down to Oklahoma to speak at the Capitol there. I met with senators there, met with elected people, did some Oklahoma talk shows. They're basically saying, could you please tell us what's going on in Canada? For instance, they were saying, do Canadians really hate us that much just because of, we're getting this tariff deal? I assured them in the start of my remarks, we've had a discussion in Canada. We've decided we are not going to take over the United States, so they can all relax. We don't want them as an 11th province, and they don't need us as a 51st state. They kind of like that comment. But they were asking these things, and they were saying, is it true that Canada's about to ban reading of the Bible? And I say, well, there's some truth to that. And what about, does Canada really, does the Canadian government really subsidize large media networks and not subsidize other reporters? And I felt kind of awkward because, of course, I love my country and I'll defend my country. Some of the stuff is hard to defend, and Americans are just starting to wonder. And Prime Minister Carney's snuggle up, closer up, let's get cuddly with China does not help at all.
Yeah. Well, we're at the bottom of the hour now. I have to go and do some other things, but let me hand the baton over to our editor-in-chief, Sheila Gunn Reid, to take it from here. And I understand we have an ad read at this moment. Go ahead.
Yes. Well, we'll take an ad break, actually, Ezra, and we'll just say goodbye to Ezra and also our friend Stockwell Day, who always is so generous with his time and his knowledge and his historical encyclopedic analysis of Canadian Confederation. Stock will have you back on very soon.
Always good to be with you. Keep up your great work, keeping Canadians informed.
I will do my best. Thanks, Ezra. Thanks for jumping on the show today as our fourth panelist.
My pleasure.
Okay, let's hit an ad break. We'll come back on the other side. We've got lots from that meeting of the Western premiers, including Wab Kinu's bad behavior and Scott Moe's reaction after the break. In Canada, firearms owners like me understand the importance of safe, effective self-defense options. That's why we're proud to have Byrna as a sponsor. Byrna's less lethal launchers are designed to help protect you and your family without taking a life. Byrna offers peace of mind, accessibility, and a practical layer of personal security for Canadians who value safety. Learn more at byrna.ca/rebel. That's byrna.ca/rebel.
Canada's been told to just quit smoking for decades, same message over and over, and yet millions of Canadians still smoke. So let's ask a follow-up question. For those who don't quit, what about change? In 2026, Canada has options that didn't exist years ago. Smoke-free alternatives for adults who would otherwise continue smoking. That doesn't mean risk-free, it means informed choice. If you don't smoke, don't start. If you smoke, quit. But for those who don't quit, change could still be part of the conversation. That's why Canadians should check out unsmoke.ca, an information resource focused on smoke-free alternatives and honest facts, not judgment. Put the lighter down, Canada. Learn what your options are.
Are you 18 to 30, curious, ambitious, and tired of cookie-cutter journalism? Then listen up. I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. I'm the chief reporter at Rebel News, but I'm also the president of the Independent Press Gallery. And I'm excited to tell you that applications are now open for the 2026 Student Journalism Conference, a 3-day, all-expenses-paid training experience in Toronto, August 28th to 30th. That means your travel, your hotel, and your meals are all covered. You just bring the drive. This isn't a lecture hall snooze fest. It's hands-on reporting, real-world skills, practical training, and direct access to experienced independent journalists who know how the media landscape in Canada actually works.
This year's theme is citizenship and civil liberties, 2 issues that matter now more than ever. You'll also compete in a live collaborative reporting challenge, creating a real journalism project with a chance to win the grand prize. And here's the big part. Past graduates are now working in independent media organizations all over Canada, building careers, breaking stories, and making a difference. Only 20 applicants will be selected, so the competition is real. Deadline to apply is June 14th. If you've got grit, curiosity, and something to say, apply now at studentjournalismconference.com. Canada needs more journalists who ask tough questions. Maybe one of them is you.
Well, that's the easiest first part of the show that I've ever had, where you could just sit and listen to 2 smart guys talk to each other.
Legends.
Right.
I just need to tell the world that when I was like a 22-year-old receptionist, Maclean's magazine landed on the front desk of the place that I was working, and on it was a man on a Sea-Doo, right? On a Sea-Doo. And that magazine, it's really windy in Saskatchewan. Let me just tuck all of my ponies back in. But that turned out to be Stockwell Day. So every time we have him on the program, it is such a full circle moment for me that all of those years ago, here's this guy that sort of compelled these conversations in the office. And it's a real treat to have him. And it's always great to have Ezra. Like, I could just listen to him all day. All day.
Yeah, well, sometimes I have to.
Lucky
Just
girl.
kidding. Now that the boss
Lucky
isn't on
best.
the show, we can misbehave. I should tell everybody, because Ezra, he's a little rusty and he likes to just get right into it. But he didn't tell you guys, if you want to support the show and have your say, you can leave a paid chat on Rumble. It's called a Rumble Rant. Or you can do the same on YouTube. It's called the Super Chat. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, we're reading it on air. If it's under that, time permitting, my time is so tight today, I can't even express to you. And the same goes for Lise. So get your chats in, get them in early so that we can read them before we have to end the show. Thank you. I want to go into the meeting of the Western Premiers because it dissolved into madness and some great reaction shots from Scott Moe. We've got Wab Kinew, the NDP Premier in Manitoba, where the highest number of welfare recipients in the country live.
I was just going to say, the welfare state of Manitoba. Yes, Premier of the welfare state of Manitoba.
Lecturing the single greatest job creator in the country, Alberta, on what we should do next. Perhaps he should zip it and listen and learn something, but never expect an NDPer to do that. So it starts with Premier Smith explaining that the judge who overruled the referendum signature, or who has basically shelved the original referendum after 300,000 Albertans collected signatures, and 300,000 signatures were collected by 7,000 volunteers in one of the most bitterly cold Alberta winters we've had in a very long time. She explains that a judge undoing the will of the people, so not just the 300,000 people that signed Stay Free Alberta, but the 400,000 that signed the Forever Canada petition in the temperate climate of the summer, that overruling that and not allowing those people to have their say is undemocratic, which of course it is. So she explains that, and then Wab Kinew jumps down her throat. So let's go to Premier Smith first.
No, I mean, the way we're going to seek clarity is through the court. We think that the duty to consult is meant to be looked at through a lens of major projects, and we take that very seriously. We had an Indigenous roundtable yesterday where I shared with the premiers how we're using our Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation to help underwrite major project participation, to give revenues to Indigenous nations, and how we want to continue engaging with Indigenous nations on that. But the issue, I think, in the court is whether that duty to consult should apply to citizen-initiated petitions. And that's where I think that the court erred in judgment, and I think it's also anti-democratic, the decision that they made. But we'll make the arguments in court about what the limits to duty to consult ought to be, and we'll see how that conversation goes. There's a couple of rounds that we have to go through, obviously, to Court of Appeal, probably also to the Supreme Court of Canada, but we want to make sure that we have a very clear understanding of what the duty to consult really means and what it doesn't mean, and I think at the moment there's a lack of clarity on that.
And you've talked a lot about...
Sorry, I'd like to respond.
So I think we know that is not correct. A lot of what you just said there, Premier Smith, specifically, and we spoke about this, so I don't mind repeating this. It is not up to the petition gatherers to fulfill the duty to consult. It is up to you as the Alberta government to fulfill the duty to consult. And in this case, when there's clearly going to be an impact on well-established existing hunting and fishing rights by putting up an international border, if some would have their way, the judge ruled, and I would agree with the judge's ruling, that that is going to infringe on rights. And so there is a duty to consult. Now, to take a step further, for the Albertan who's been frustrated over the lack of progress on pipelines, you've got the Premier of BC announcing LNG. We're working on Churchill. We're working on northern trade corridors. This is a moment to get big things built in Manitoba. And I would say now is the time to work together. Why don't we hold off on this referendum talk for a year or two and see if we get these pipelines under construction? Because at the end of the day, we want Canada to succeed. We're all very proud of this place. I myself am very, very patriotic. And what I think it's important for us to say when we hear this sorts of discussion happening here in Alberta is for us to say, okay, thank you First Nations in Alberta for hitting the pause button on this. Now the rest of Canada, let's work together and show Alberta just how appreciated they are in the rest of this country.
And this is why we have the courts, because you can have politicians disagree, and that's why you take it through the court, you take it through the appeals, and you go to the Supreme Court. And ultimately, though, I respect the difference of opinion that Premier Canoe has raised. I think we'll wait and to see how our Court of Appeals process goes and see what the courts have to say in the end.
Scott Moe rearranged every single thing in front of him several times.
The pen.
The pen, the pieces of the paper, everything.
And then he starts leaning towards her a little bit, I noticed.
Oh, for sure. You could see the body language.
All eyes on Scott Moe at this moment. He was sort of looking, oh, Lordy, okay, what is he doing? Going off on a little test. Sir, you should keep this in the private meetings, not in front of the cameras. He's saying to Wab Canoe in his head.
I'm glad Wab Canoe did that because he accidentally made the case for Alberta separation when he listed projects that are going forward in British Columbia and in Manitoba, and yet none actually happening in Alberta. And he's saying, look, Confederation's working. Can't you see? We're getting projects. Yeah, it's working for you. It's not working for us, so we don't want to stay. And then he thanks the Indigenous leaders for
putting a stop to it.
Putting a stop to it. But also those Indigenous leaders disenfranchised their own people because our Act for Alberta polling done through a reputable firm, Main Street, found that 46% of Indigenous people, so roughly 1 in 2 Indigenous people, supports independence. And they don't get a say, thanks to their activist chiefs like Alan Adam, who one of his greatest hits was touring around the oil sands in Fort McMurray with Jane Fonda bashing the very industry that employs his people, and then also engaging in what was loosely described as a drunken fist fight with RCMP officers in front of the casino a few years ago in Fort McMurray. He's the great Indigenous leader who has saved the hunting and fishing rights. By the way, how would Alberta separation impose on the hunting and fishing rights of Indigenous people? It's not like we would say to them, you can't hunt and fish anymore.
Right.
We would
exactly this.
We keep giving her.
We already have intranational tribal land that First Nations people often go back and forth on through the United States into Canada, Nothing would change here. Nobody's access would change here. And as a matter of fact, Wab Canoe, I think there's an argument the First Nations people would be treated a hell of a lot better than they are now. And of course they know this because this is fleshed out in the polling that Act for Alberta conducted. But the truth of the matter is, and when it comes, like when the rubber meets the road, Danielle Smith has absolutely every authority to consult with the people of Alberta without federal overreach, without Indigenous overreach, or without, shifty third parties trying to sway things the way of Confederation. She has every right to consult with the people of Alberta, and she should do that as soon as possible. Because what I'm seeing here is a whole mechanism that's been built to defy her. And I don't know about you, but I am tired. I am tired of men like Mark Carney and Wab Kinew telling Danielle Smith how she can be a more proper lady. Like, get bent. The people of Alberta support her. Obviously, they support her, as do the people of the West. I don't take that. I don't like this public criticism of her like this in that in that setting. Sorry, I just don't.
I think she handled it just fine. You could see her body language. She sort of tucked her chin under and bit her lip.
Watch this. She did like this. Leaned
and
right
tucked her
in
chin and sort of looked over her eyes at him.
Through Scott Moe. She had to look through Scott Moe to look at Wab Kinew. It was glorious.
And in case you're wondering about the kind of impulse control that Wab Kinew has, this is him in the legislature, in the chamber, okay? On May 19th, in the Manitoba legislature, he was cackling, making dog growling noises when they were asking about, like, it was during a budget debate. So serious budget debate. And he's acting like he's, well, Doug Ford, we'll get to that clip later, when Doug Ford referred to himself as a werewolf. We'll get to that on the way out. Let's watch this.
Okay.
Okay, go.
Again, you know, it's, I asked the Premier numerous times to please be respectful while I ask questions from Manitobans. Order. This is unbecoming of the Premier. It is unfortunate. Just ask him to be respectful. I'm asking questions. Ask a question. And this is the behavior we're getting from him. It's unfortunate. So, the Premier knows he can do it and pass it. So the simple question is, will the Premier stop laughing? No. Nobody else? No. I'm asking about the budget bill. And the answer is no. Now,
where the F is the speaker?
How petulant and awful was that?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy that is not accustomed to hearing things that he doesn't want to hear. And he acted like a child. Like when they say every child matters, that includes Wab Kinew now.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
What a petulant child. If that was my kid, honest to God, spanking and nap immediately. You're in the house that represents all of the people of Manitoba, and you should conduct yourself with a little more dignity, sir.
Yes.
But I don't think that's something that he has. I don't think that that's a quality that he possesses naturally.
Like, I just want to know where the NDP Speaker of the House was to get control of that place.
Well,
how did that even happen?
Why would they ever, Sheila?
Right. I just answered my own question. Scott Moe, he had a great soundbite yesterday from the Western First Ministers meeting. He criticized Trudeau's failures as a reason that we're facing a national unity crisis. And then he softly criticizes Mark Carney for not doing enough fast enough or anything.
Let's go.
Frank and civil conversations like you saw here over the last day and a half to further our opportunities collectively. Ultimately, the success of those provinces is going to very much make for a stronger nation of Canada, and I would think over time very much a more united nation of Canada. It's that very lack of respect for those constitutional areas that provinces have, the very right under that constitution to govern in and to make decisions in development of our natural resources, for example, that over the last 10 years have largely been trampled on by the former Prime Minister, as I jokingly, not affectionately, jokingly say he who should not be named. That has created many of the differences that some areas of this nation are managing their way through today. And I spoke of this yesterday, and I speak of this every day. That appears to be changing, albeit not perfect from my view. I would like to see things move quicker, faster, and go further. However, they are changing, and they're changing significantly, and we should take note of that. All of us, and each of us as individuals.
Where, Scott?
Sorry, Sheila, my video is frozen. My video is frozen and I'm not moving. I don't know what to do in this case. But in any case, yes, Scott Moe likes to bring up Trudeau as sort of as the comparison against Carney, like compared to Justin Trudeau, the woman-hating, doofus who screwed us over for 10 years. Mark Carney doesn't seem that bad, but he is, Scott. He is that. He's arguably worse than Justin Trudeau, because not only is he evil, but he's clever evil. And so let's be careful about who we trust here.
Right. That's like saying...
Sorry, go ahead, babe.
I was just going to say, it's like saying, well, he's just Ted Bundy. He's not the Green River Killer. Like it's still bad. And it's not good for the West either way, and actually not good for the country at large. I think Lise is quickly sorting out her Zoom because her camera froze on us. So while she does that, I'm going to throw to a clip from Michelle Rempel-Garner. She's the Conservative MP from Calgary-Nose Hill, and I think she's been really strong on Western alienation issues. And we have Lise back, I believe. She's looking good. She might have to hang up on her other Zoom call so we don't get her on an echo. And she's got a unique perspective on the war on America that we try to wage here in Canada, because she's married to an Oklahoman. And so she's taken, I think, among all the Conservative MPs, I think probably the best right approach. If you are a federalist, she's got the right tone, and she doesn't diminish the concerns of Western separatists. So let's watch this video from her.
The other thing that I want to, as an Alberta MP, make a comment on is the Prime Minister's comments this morning. I just want to say this. The Prime Minister and the Liberals, they need some humility at this moment. The reality is that there is a lot of frustration in Alberta after 10 years of Liberal policy that essentially shut down the energy sector's growth and stymied a lot of projects. I want to be very clear, it was the Prime Minister who started an international banking alliance that shut down Alberta oil and gas. He has no right to wag his finger. That makes it worse, and he shouldn't be doing what he did this morning. Also, arguably, he screwed up on Brexit. He came out as part of Project Fear, and it backfired. I would strongly caution him from doing that again, and the tone that he gave this morning was not responsible in that regard. What we need to do right now is that the Liberals need to project hope, not fear. And to do that, they have to start addressing some of the deep and real frustrations of the people of my province. I want to be very clear. Some of the most patriotic Canadians I know are frustrated Albertans. They know that a strong Alberta means a strong Canada, and a lot of people don't understand why the Liberals spent a decade stymieing our economy for no reason. That weakened our entire country, and we're seeing that right now, right? At a time when we could be producing record levels of energy to meet the world's needs at a time of crisis. A decade of Liberal policy not only cost the people of my province jobs and prosperity, it cost our entire country that prosperity. It cost our entire country energy security. But it's not just about energy security. It's not just about these bills, which they need to repeal. It's also about equity. I believe that a strong Canada is when we are united in equity. And the reality is it's not all okay right now. The federal Liberals have treated my province for a decade like an afterthought. I've had many, famous quotes about this in the House of Commons over the years, and I've wrote documents warning that this would happen if the Liberals didn't take action to show some hope for that equitable Canada. So what I'm calling on the Prime Minister to do is he has no right to wave his finger. There's one person who can unite the country right now, and one job it is, and it's Mark Carney's, but he can't just wag his finger. He has to project real action. Tell Albertans when a shovel is going to go in the ground for pipelines. To tell Albertans when he's going to repeal these bills that are preventing investment in upstream development for our resources sector. When is he going to repeal the Gunn grab? that has irritated so many Albertans and more. I mean, even if you walk down the street to the National Art Gallery here, is there a display of Western heritage art? No. It's things like that. So rather than wagging his finger, what the Prime Minister needs to do is to project hope. Conservatives are going to project hope. For a decade, I have fought against these policies. We will continue to do that. And again, I just want to reiterate that part of that is having his immigration minister show up for work, mercifully. Thank you.
Mercifully. Thank you. See, she had notes, but she didn't look at them once. And she is right when she says she wrote documents about this in 2020. I think it was February 2020. She and Glenn Motz, who is a great MP, Arnold Viersen, and who's the other one? I want to say Blake Richards. Yes, Blake Richards and Michelle Rempel-Garner wrote what was called the Buffalo Declaration, warning in 2020. They laid out all the problems and inequities facing Alberta and said, if these are not fixed, you will see Alberta try to leave. And she said it's a crisis. And she said it's about equity back then. 6 years later, over 6 years later, it's worse. And they warned about this.
So much worse. But I'm delighted to hear her actually say it's not just about energy. It's about a bunch of other things.
Culture.
Even if we fix equalization, even if we fix the gross misrepresentation or overrepresentation by Liberals in the House of Commons, even if we fix the judiciary, even if we fix crime in Canada, the West and the East have completely different cultures. And those things aren't going to be repaired by, like she said, Mark Carney coming in and wagging a finger at Albertans and Saskies and Westerners at large, telling us how he thinks we should be living our lives. The whole point of this is we are tired of Ottawa telling us how to live our lives, because it doesn't matter what they offer us. It doesn't matter how we get our money back. It doesn't matter the federal program. When we say yes to Ottawa, there is always something we give up freedom-wise on the other end. And so those are the things that are not being addressed by anybody, not like Scott Moe talked about natural resources. Michelle Rempel-Garner talked about natural resources. Mark Carney loves talking about natural resources, but it's not the only thing. As a matter of fact, I would say it's one of the lesser things. So good luck to them trying to keep the energy of Alberta and Saskatchewan people down, because we've just had it. 120 years is enough time to know that this ain't working for us.
Yeah.
So.
I just want to breeze past this, Olivia. We don't need to show the video reaction from Premier Smith because we're rapidly running out of time. But as was speculated on the show yesterday, Stephen Guilbeault resigned yesterday. And Mark Carney has congratulated him for his many, many years of fighting the climate. And my congratulation here is to Premier Smith for breaking that man.
Right. Yeah. For just finally seeing him. I can't wait to see him on a flotilla or vandalizing some museum. I just can't wait for that. Am I frozen again, Sheila?
You're frozen again.
Sorry, guys, but we are running out of time in the show, so I guess you just hear my voice and not my face.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Let's go to this quick one here because this is out of Saskatchewan. This is from our friends over at the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms.
Yes.
Saskatchewan mother demands protection for girls' privacy in school washrooms. This is from Lampman, Saskatchewan. I should have looked up the population there. The Justice Center is, they've sent a legal letter to the Southeast Cornerstone Public School Division Board on behalf of Lampman mother Tawny Johnston, who's calling on the board to implement policies that protect the privacy, dignity, and safety of female students in school washrooms. Lampman is a community of approximately 800 residents located 40 kilometers east of Estevan in southeastern Saskatchewan. The letter concerns allegations that a 17-year-old biological male transgender student has been permitted to use the girls' multi-stall washroom at Lampman School, despite numerous female students expressing concerns that the current arrangement has left girls feeling unsafe, uncomfortable, and reluctant to use the washroom facilities. 800 people in this town.
Yeah, hey, this is right next door, Sheila Gunn Reid, to Redverse and Arcola, like right in the same area.
We should pop in.
We are going to pop in. So I touched base with Tawny Johnson yesterday because I just needed to support her in this. But of course, female students in Saskatchewan need female-only washrooms, change rooms, and change spaces because of their uniquely female biological needs. So here we have this kid, this biological boy who claims to be a girl that is infringing on the privacy and dignity of all of these little girls in Lantman, Saskatchewan. The girls of Lantman, Saskatchewan, we are on your side. Okay, we would be happy to hear from you at Rebel News. But Tawny's argument is not controversial. Girls deserve privacy and dignity away from the prying eyes of boys whose motivations we may not know. So all of the best to Tawny Johnson, all of the best to the people of Lantman, Saskatchewan, especially the girls. And we look forward to seeing what the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms can do.
Yes, I do too. Did I meet Tawny?
No, I don't think you did.
Okay.
I don't think we've met her yet, but we're gonna. Tawny,
Okay.
we're coming. We're coming to Lantman.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Then there's this fun story out of Regina. Queen City Pride Parade has a new route. And CBC wonders. They pose the question. They ponder.
Yes. Opine.
They opine. Does it sacrifice visibility for safety? I think you could see them from the space station. Look at these rainbow dart frog people. Very dangerous. Concerns about vehicle incursions and violence. I'm more scared about violence going one way rather than the other. I think we know what I'm talking about. Cited for Regina's new parade path.
Yeah. So the CBC just goes absolutely, like, goes overboard, trying to, placate the poor Pride Parade people about a new parade route that was chosen because of traffic considerations and other considerations. And the Pride community is just beside themselves. Well, people won't see us, but this isn't the preferred place we want to walk. Oh, but I suppose because of violence. They quote the what was it? It was the Vancouver Filipino Festival where the driver went in. Right. They quoted that as a reason for the Pride people in Regina, Saskatchewan to feel unsafe. When in reality, you guys, what the CBC didn't say in all of their many, many words interviewing the Pride people is that in Saskatchewan on that same day is a Saskatchewan Rough Riders game. Okay.
Right.
And we are inviting 40,000 people into the city that same afternoon. But instead of the CBC pointing that out, hey, maybe the route was changed to accommodate the 40,000 visitors to the city and the economic development that comes with that. They gave the microphone to the Pride people who screamed victim, who said in the comments, they should protest, they should not abide by this, and also that they are so unsafe that they should just let it go. So real funny to see the Pride people in Regina just lose their minds because there's another event happening in the city. Oh, if you're coming into Regina, you guys, for the Saskatchewan Rough Riders game on June 13th, this is the area you're going to want to avoid. Okay, you saw it on the screen. So it's right up Albert Street to Legislative Drive and around the front side of the ledge. So don't go there if you're coming here for the Riders game on June 13th. You're welcome, Saskatchewan. Go Riders.
Go Riders.
Go
Okay. I'm going to do, we got a bunch of chats. I'm going to breeze through those. And then I want to talk about Doug Ford. Doug Ford channeling his inner teen wolf to deal with some local scavenger pest types. So we've got first chat, Eiro Spacer, $10. Nate Horner is retiring as an MLA because he believes Albertans shouldn't have an independence vote. Seems about right. My name is Landon Hill and I'll be running for his seat. Albertans should be allowed to vote. Great.
Landon Hill, good to meet you. Nice message. Thanks so much.
My friend Mike from Freedom Honey says there's an independence chat tonight on the Fringe. You still in? I'll message you the link. He invited me on the show. Mike, I'm going to do my very best, but I have a major milestone family function happening in 72 hours on my farm, and I'm in the home stretch. So I'll let you know in a couple hours. All right. Real Steve Jensen, $10. EB and Wob versus Danielle and Mo. Socialists versus conservatives. Guess which provinces are doing better? Yeah, no kidding.
Bro.
Wob has no idea what he's talking about, and what's with Wob's damn smirk?
Oh, didn't he look devious there? Smarmy even.
Yeah.
Sheila Gunn Reid, smarmy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Real Steve Jensen also gives us $10 and says, Canada just doesn't get it, although they may be beginning to realize it. Yeah, that's true. It's not about a pipeline. It's always been about Ottawa's abuse. We finally have woken up to the Laurentians. I think a lot of us have been awake to the problem of the Laurentians for a very long time. The pipeline problem is a consequence of a greater disease, is what I think.
Well, it's an obvious sign of decay, right? Like it's an obvious sign of decay. If we couldn't get it right up until now, are we ever going to be able to with the federal government? And I think the answer for Westerners is no.
Yes. Real Steve Jensen also gives us $5 and says, Sheila, thanks for coming to the Let's Talk Alberta dinner last night and for speaking and inspiring us to dig in and work even harder. You know, I just went there for chicken and ribs. I'm going to be honest with you. And when I got there, Chris Scott is like, oh, and you're speaking. I'm like,
okay.
But then I thought, you know what? I speak for a living. I speak for an hour every day, just sort of off the cuff. I think I wrote a book on Western independence.
Girl.
I can give her on that. So
you
I
can
did.
fill the time. Yes, you can fill the time pretty easily. Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I had barbecue sauce on my face. It's like, oh, and you're speaking.
Oh, was this
like
was this the one that Chris was talking about a couple of weeks ago when he was our guest? Like, okay. Oh, excellent. I'm happy everybody had a great time and the food was awesome.
It was great. The food was awesome. And I'll see Chris in a couple of days. Cicely Bardwell, who has been a member here on the channel for 8 months, says if judges on the left are appointed, can a different government unappoint them? We're trying. Ooh. We want to have our own courts. And that's why Alberta, even as a province within Confederation, is saying we want a larger say, any say, in who gets appointed to the courts here, because they clearly don't reflect the values of Albertans.
Yeah, judges and I'm of the opinion that judges in law enforcement and principals of schools should all be elected positions,
because
if you don't end up serving the people, you should be walked out of your job.
Yes. Yeah. Olivia, do you have that clip of Doug Ford that I just thought was so funny? Okay, let's play it. This is the cringe, but Doug Ford had a good week, a bad week, a good week, a bad week. Let's end on a funny note with Doug Ford on this middle of the week. He said that coyotes are a bit of a problem, or as they say in Toronto, coyotes, which is not the appropriate way to say it. This is why we want to leave. Every time I say coyotes, somebody from Toronto says it's coyotes. No,
it's actually not, sir.
Yeah, sorry, David Menzies. Coyotes are in cartoons. Coyotes eat your chickens. Okay. And so anyways, Doug Ford has had a coyote problem and he has taken it upon himself to deal with it in the most hilarious Michael Jackson Thriller style way. So let's watch.
Well, I have them in my backyard. You know, you're worried to walk your dog out there. We have a coyote problem. But you're going to think the cheese slipped off the cracker with me. But one night I'm sitting there and they must have made a kill and they're screeching. I don't know if you've ever heard them. They're screeching. So I went out there and howled like a wolf. They stopped instantly. No, honestly, I got to tape this for you guys. They stopped instantly, so they figured the big wolf's around the corner. And
Can you do that coyote howl for us?
No, it's a wolf.
Oh, it's a
wolf.
wolf.
There you go.
Oh my God. Like, of the one time you can't see my face as I'm reacting, I'm like, Doug, if we were to hear the coyotes version of this story, they'd be like, listen, we were out doing what we do as a family of coyotes when all of a sudden a fat man came out and tried to sound like a wolf. Right. Can you imagine? We ran away because we were afraid for our safety. Our safety. That's what the coyotes would have said. Oh, God.
Can you I want Doug Ford to get a Teen Wolf costume and go on coyote patrol in his neighborhood every single night.
Yeah.
I don't even know how that question came up. Yeah. Like, you're scrumming Doug Ford, you know, like the Western premiers are fighting with each other. Mark Carney says that the referendums in Alberta are non-binding, but of course they are. Like, there's a lot of things to talk about. And you were asking him about the coyotes eating a dead deer in his neighborhood and how he dealt with it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just days away from Doug Ford being out of a sunroof in a parade, just howling at the moon. You know what I mean? Just full on Doug Ford, full on. Like that's
May
almost Rob Ford behavior, and I kind of like it.
I want him to stay like that. Just stay like that. Just tell me stories about how you're dealing with the raccoons. That I would be here for that all day long. Yeah,
We have good Doug, we have bad Doug, and we have goofy Doug. And I'm kind of here for
I
goofy
like
Doug.
goofy Doug. Stay
Yeah.
goofy, Doug Ford.
Stay goofy.
All right, let's wrap up the show. I'll do it alone with Lisa's beautiful voice in my ear.
Okay.
Thanks to everybody who tuned into the show today, pitched in a little bit. Special thanks to the boss, Ezra Levant, and our friend Stockwell Dave for joining the show for the first half. Olivia and Efron and everybody who works behind the scenes to put the show together. Thank you for that. We couldn't do it without you. You make us look really smart. For those of you who share the show, it's a great free way to help us out here at Rebel News. I think I'm back here tomorrow with Tamara Ugolini. Lise is the ghost right now who's haunting my ear because her camera's not working. There she is.
I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened, but I am here in spirit.
Yeah. Yes. Ooh. We'll see Lise next Tuesday. All of you, but I will see her in, hours from now. And as we say frequently on the show here, if you find us offensive, maybe don't find us at all.
How do you think the ongoing debate about separation in Alberta and upcoming referendum question is going to affect the likelihood or chances that a private sector proponent may come forward to build a West Coast pipeline?
Well, it's first and foremost, I think what we do as the federal government is we continue to work collaboratively with Alberta, with British Columbia, with First Nations, in this case, First Nations, well, I should say Indigenous peoples because Métis as well, to ensure that if there is a pipeline or related carbon capture or interties between the electricity grids and or nuclear and or other components of this, that it benefits all of the parties and works with all of the parties. In that way, we make two things more likely. One, we make the actual economic activity there more likely, lower emissions more likely, as well as the Federation work better, and of course that has implications for how people vote. Thank you.
But you don't think separation but does separation have an impact on whether, you spent a career in business, does separation have an impact on whether a company wants to put their hand up and build a new pipeline?
Well, it's, look, my experience in these would be the same as others, is that uncertainty, this type of uncertainty is unhelpful for long-term investment decisions. What I answered, though, is what does the federal government do about this, and in terms of making the Federation work, creating the conditions to create jobs, create prosperity, to get emissions down. All of that is what we're doing to move forward on reconciliation, truly move forward on reconciliation. That's what we're doing, and that has impacts both for the economic side, but also should have impacts